It began subtly, as most fractures do. The rhythm of their days, on say a steady, reliable beat started to skip. David would wake at the same pre-dawn hour, but the silence in the house felt different now. Finnery'd sit at the kitchen table, the coffee tasting bitter, and noticed the shadows under his own eyes in the dark window reflection. At work, the familiar hum of machinery was punctuated by new, unsettling pauses. Conversations would stop when he approached. Supervisors who once clapped him on the shoulder now avoided his gaze, their eyes darting away as if he were a problem they hadn't yet figured out how to solve. He started seeing it everywhere. Fewer hours on the schedule, hushed meetings behind closed doors, a tension that coiled in his stomach and stayed there. He brought this tension home with him, a ghost that sat at their dinner table. He tried to hide it, folding it away like he did the bills, but Sarah saw it. She always saw everything. Her response wasn't to ask questions he couldn't answer. Instead, she waged a silent war against the encroaching chaos. She became a whirlwind of productivity. She made lists. She cleaned corners of the house that were already clean. She planned meals with militant precision, stretching every dollar until it was transparent. It was a performance of control, a forced calm that was more exhausting than any outburst. Her smile became a shield, carefully maintained, but her hands, when she thought no one was looking, would tremble just for a second before she clenched them into fists. Depressor, once a low hum in the background, was becoming a roar. It arrived in thin envelopes with red lettering. A final notice, tucked beneath a stack of junk mail, felt like a judgment. Then the car, their lifeline to work, to school, to everything, began to make a sound like grinding teeth. The mechanic's estimate was a number so far beyond their reach it felt like a joke. They stared at the paper in the dim light of the garage, not speaking. What was there to say? The number was an ending. That night, the whispers started. The arguments they'd always avoided found their way into the dark. They were quiet, restrained battles fought in hushed tones after the children were asleep. "We can't keep doing this," she'd say, her voice tight with unshed tears. "What do you want me to do?" he'd whisper back, the defensiveness barely masking his own fear. They weren't fighting each other. They were fighting a reality that had them cornered. Each whispered accusation, each pained silence, was a small crack in the foundation they had built together. And the children, they felt it. They absorbed the anxiety like the house absorbed the cold. Leo, their oldest, grew quieter. He started to shrink, making himself smaller, less visible. He'd do his homework without being asked, clean his room meticulously, and never, ever complain. He seemed to have made a silent vow. I will not be a problem. His retreat into himself was his own quiet sacrifice, a child's attempt to lighten a load he couldn't possibly understand. Maya, younger and more resilient, took the opposite approach. She tried to fix the broken atmosphere with pure, unfiltered love. She'd draw pictures of smiling suns and tape them to the fridge. She'd wrap her arms around her father's legs the moment he walked in the door, as if her small hug could hold him together. She'd tell her mother she was the best mommy in the whole world. Her innocent words a stark contrast to the worry etched on Sarah's face. Maya's optimism was a tiny, flickering candle in a growing darkness, and it was heartbreaking. The defining moment didn't arrive with a bang. It was a phone call. Sarah answered, her usual hello bright and practiced. David watched as the brightness drained from her face, replaced by a pale, stark stillness. She listened, nodded, and said, I understand. A single tear traced a path down her cheek, and she didn't bother to wipe it away. She hung up the phone and looked at David. The shield was gone. The performance was over. They're cutting my hours, she said, her voice hollow. Half. It wasn't just the money. It was the final support giving way. It was the realization that her efforts, her lists, her perfect control had meant nothing. They both knew what this meant. The car wouldn't be fixed. The final notice would become an eviction notice. Their careful dance on the edge of a cliff was over. That night, there were no whispers. There was only a profound, suffocating silence. They sat in the living room, the television off, staring at the wall as if the answer was written there. Lady Maya, sensing the weight, walked over and tugged on her father's sleeve. She held up a crayon drawing of their family, all four of them holding hands under a rainbow. She looked up at him, her eyes wide with a child's unwavering faith, and asked, "Are we still okay?" The innocent question shattered what was left of their composure. It hurt more than any argument, more than any bill, more than any fear. Because for the first time, the answer was no. That night, they understood something they had been avoiding for years. This wasn't just a difficult season. This was the moment everything could be lost. Part 3 is not about rescue. It's about the decision that changes everything.